After my first year of university, I lost my mind and moved. After my first year of university, I lost my mind and moved home. It wasn't a cool thing to do. I had gone out into the world and I had failed at finding independence, friends, and parties. University didn't shake out like it was in the movies, where white kids with dreadlocks play hacky sack on a perfectly green lawn and talk about the next Alice in Chains. By the time I had moved back, I had a dingy apartment next to the casino, and across the bridge from Mount Royal University, a place where I went to summer camps as a kid and never thought I'd end up. With a 4.0 GPA, I negated to account for the fact that I might be too late to get in. I think that at that time, I was possibly the most depressed I had ever been in my life. I would lay on my futon with no school to be at and no job while my girlfriend and friends were in class. I had blown it. My job search found me hired at a large corporate bookstore as a seasonal employee in October. I resented my existence further. I had applied earlier at a guitar shop that I would beg my dad to take me to as a kid, and learned that they had an opening but wanted someone experienced. Not me. As the days went on and the bookstore fed my depression, my desperation led me to call the manager of said guitar shop on a weekly basis and ask if he had filled the opening. Eventually, my persistence and his lack of applicants found me a hasty start. Luck would have it that I sold a Martin D18 and a Gibson SG with an amp my first day, netting me a healthy commission check. I was hooked. It wasn't hard for me to sell guitars to willing customers. One of the reasons I invest in instruments to this day is that unlike cell phones, cars, or camera gear, they don't go out of date when kept well. They hold their value. All of a sudden, life was magical. I was the top seller in the company, and I had a girlfriend who I thought was as funny and clever as she was attractive. I still haven't made as much money since then. Was my earlier depression really just part of some deity's plan to get me where I was really meant to be? Was I meant to move away and hate it so that I could move home and realize that my soulmate was best friends with my next door neighbor? Was I meant to miss registration so that I could find my true calling, selling guitars? Maybe. While selling hundreds of guitars, I learned what I liked. I wanted a Telecaster with a tummy cut, a 6-piece compensated bridge, hand-wired pickups, and a flashy color, pink or purple. I'd likely have to have it custom made, but with the bank I was making hucking Yamaha acoustics, my dreams had no ceiling. As winter semester came, I was down to part-time and no longer selling like I was. My status as the golden boy was quickly washed away by the suds of higher education and evening shifts. People don't make big purchases in the evening, they take the morning off on Friday. Back in business school, I saw my newfound sense of self slip away, and eventually I quit the guitar shop. It was kind of like getting back with an ex. You know what it used to be, and that it will never amount to that again. After all, you've called someone else your go-to pet name. By the next winter test season, I was again rudderless. Turns out it wasn't my previous university that sucked the life from me, it was university. Burnt out from studying and feeling empty, I had one of my routine looks on Kijiji, and there it was, a Telecaster in a bluish purple with twisted telly pickups and a compensated bridge. With a fresh scholarship check burning a hole in my pocket, I bought it that day. That Telecaster is still the best I've played. What are the odds that in my broke existence as a student, that I had just received a scholarship check when this guitar was available? What is the likelihood of my finding it on the classified site? What chance elements aligned so that this particular Telecaster was one of the 5 or 10% that play particularly well? I don't know how likely it is that I was destined to own the guitar, or that I attracted it with my patience and prayers. I do know that the specificity of my hopes allowed me to know that this was the guitar and that I was unlikely to find another. The girlfriend would eventually go and take my dreams of forever love with her, and I would eventually confront the reality of the damage business school had caused to my soul and drop out. But I still have the guitar. I would later find career success teaching music. things looked up again. I took some time off to go to the town that I had fled years earlier to record a new album with a friend. I had begun an internet exchange with the music director of the college station that had replaced one of the few people I would seek out to talk to in my first year. Though things were flirty, neither of us said it. As the conversations deepened and became decreasingly professional, the elephant began announcing himself. By this point, I was so jaded by my previous heartbreaks that I was resisting the fall, the temptation to get excited about a possible new love. She shared my deep affinity for obscure records and even my adoration of Wurlitzer and Rhodes electric pianos. They just sound so wonky. Suggesting that if I was coming down to make this record, I could stay at her place, I resisted. I found a middle ground, recommending that I come down earlier on Friday to watch a movie and hang out before getting a hotel room. Now here is where the questions of fate come in. On a drive that I had completed infinite times in many a 20-year-old neglected sedan, the newest and least decrepit car I had ever owned lost power and shuddered to a stop 120 kilometers from home. I was equal distance from a friend farther south as I was from home. As fate or circumstance or the simulation would have it, the only friend that could come get me was 100 kilometers closer to the studio and the girl, and away from my busted alternator. In this situation, I could no longer afford to guard myself. I called the girl and asked if she would pick me up from my friend's house and drive me the rest of the way. With a dead car 200 kilometers away and no idea how I was going to get to it or home, a hotel was no longer in the cards. I would go on to form a deep connection with said girl, falling fast and hard. Happy ending, right? God decided we were meant to be and killed my car so that I couldn't get in the way. That's what I thought for about 4 of the 6 months that we lasted. I would eventually come home from work to find a note on my bed. Like a country song, she was gone. It's a good thing that the cat was mine and we had no kids. To distract myself, I turned to an old friend, Kijiji. I had a rule with myself. If I ever found a Rhodes or Wurlitzer electric piano at an estate sale or really anywhere outside the collector market that I could remotely afford, I would buy it. And as it glared at me, province-wide search continued to prove its worthiness. Everything I had tried to protect myself from, loving someone so strongly again and feeling betrayed, was rendered inescapable by planned obsolescence or my alternator being made on a Friday. But in this moment, as one dream died, another came true. I left early the next morning in a borrowed truck to drive the 300 kilometers to Edmonton and buy the most beat-up Fender Rhodes I had ever seen. I have absolutely no idea if any of this is tied together on a cosmic chronology designed by a higher power, or if it is a choose-your-own-adventure game with limited outcomes. I choose to believe that as long as you exercise patience and kindness, with an openness to varied results, you can have what you want. Ram Dass says that the teacher never offers a reward without yet another lesson. When subscribing to this belief, one only ever really stands to level up, and will continue to do so as long as they are willing to learn what they were meant to. Was I meant to learn that no matter how much you love someone, you can come home to a note? Maybe. Was I meant to learn to be more selective so that I pick the right person next time? Equally possible. I choose to believe that my patience and persistence when it comes to what I want have allowed me to possess some of my dream instruments. Eventually I'll see a for sale sign on a pink farmhouse and I'll turn into the driveway. Someday I'll meet someone so wonderful that I'll know. The opportunities that I wait for will present themselves and I will be able to pursue them with confidence. I can't prove or assert with any degree of assuredness that any of this is meant to be or will ever happen. I can, however, say that I have extended my best intentions to the universe and asked for them. I choose to believe, to trust, to enjoy the journey. I choose a faith in that what is meant for me will be mine so long as I can say thank you and appreciate the lessons contained.